As humanity expands out into the stars, it's easy to forget the history that came before. But for some, the past is never truly gone. In the year 536 AD, the world was a very different place. The Roman Empire had fallen, the Dark Ages had begun, and the skies had turned dark with ash from a volcanic eruption. It was, by all accounts, the worst year in human history. But for the crew of the spaceship Nova, 536 AD was just another stop on their journey through time. They were a team of scientists and historians, tasked with studying the past and uncovering its secrets.
Are all systems ready?
Yes, Captain. We're fully charged and ready to make the jump.
Remember, this is a mission of the utmost importance. We're going to witness one of the darkest moments in human history, and we must be prepared for anything. Let's do this.
We're going back to the year 536 AD.
And we're going to make a difference.
And for their latest mission, they had landed in what used to be Europe. As they stepped out of the ship and onto the desolate landscape, they knew that they were in for a difficult mission. The air was thick with ash and the sun barely shone through the clouds. But they were determined to make the most of their time here. Their first stop was what used to be Rome. They had read about the city in history books, but seeing it in person was a different experience entirely. The once great structures were now ruins, covered in layers of ash and debris.
Are you all ready for this? We're here. Let's get to work.
I just hope we can learn something from this. Maybe there's something we can do to prevent similar catastrophes from happening in the future.
As they explored the city, they came across a group of survivors. They were huddled around a fire, trying to keep warm in the harsh climate.
Who are you? Why have you come here?
We're from the future. We've come to study the past and learn from it.
The future? How is that possible?
We've developed technology that allows us to travel through time.
I don't understand. What can you learn from us? This is a terrible time. There's nothing here for you.
On the contrary, we believe that studying the past can help us build a better future. We want to learn from the mistakes of those who came before us so that we can avoid making the same mistakes ourselves.
The survivors looked at each other, unsure of what to make of the strange visitors. "Can you help us?" one of them asked. "Our crops have failed and we're running out of food." The crew knew that they couldn't interfere with the timeline too much, but they also couldn't just leave these people to starve.
We can't just leave them here to suffer. We have the technology to help them.
But what about the consequences of altering the timeline? We could cause irreparable damage to the future.
We have to weigh the risks and benefits. If we can save lives now, it might be worth it.
And who knows, maybe our actions could actually lead to a better future. We can't just sit back and do nothing.
They decided to use their advanced technology to help the survivors. They set up a series of hydroponic gardens, using water and nutrients to grow fresh produce in the midst of the ash. The survivors were amazed by the sight of tomatoes and peppers growing in the middle of their ruined city. As they worked, the crew couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the resilience of these people. They had survived through one of the toughest years in human history, and they were still fighting to survive. But their mission was far from over. They still had much to learn about the events of 536 AD. As they traveled further into Europe, they discovered a mysterious cult that worshipped a deity known as the Ashen One. They had never heard of such a god before, and they were eager to learn more. The cult members were hesitant to speak with the crew at first, but they eventually opened up.
This cult that worships the Ashen One, have you ever heard of them before?
Of course. We have been blessed with the wisdom and guidance of the Ashen One for generations.
Can you tell us more about the Ashen One? Who or what is it?
The Ashen One is a deity who controls the forces of nature. It was the Ashen One who caused the volcanic eruption that devastated our world. We believe that it was a punishment for the sins of humanity.
I see. And what do you think will happen if the Ashen One is not appeased?
We fear that the Ashen One will unleash more destruction upon us. That is why we must always honor and worship it, and offer it sacrifices.
Sacrifices?
Yes. We offer the Ashen One the blood of the unworthy, so that it may be appeased.
That's disturbing. We need to know more about this. Can you take us to your temple? We want to see it for ourselves.
I'm sorry, but I cannot do that. The temple is sacred and only the chosen ones may enter.
I understand. We'll have to find another way to learn more about the Ashen One. Thank you for your time.
The crew knew that they had stumbled upon something big. If this cult truly believed that they could control the forces of nature, then they could pose a serious threat to the future of humanity. They knew that they had to act fast. They gathered as much information as they could about the cult and their practices, and then they destroyed their temple.
You have done a great service for our people, but you must be careful. The timeline is fragile and easily disrupted. You could cause unintended consequences that ripple through time and affect generations to come.
We understand your concerns, but we couldn't just sit back and watch your people suffer.
We appreciate your compassion, but you must understand that there are forces at work beyond our understanding. You cannot know the full consequences of your actions.
We will take your words to heart. We promise to be more cautious in our mission going forward.
As the crew of the Nova returned to their own time, they felt a sense of satisfaction in their successful mission. However, there was one member of the crew who felt a sense of guilt weighing heavily on their shoulders. Dr. Emily Torres, one of the crew's historians, had made a mistake during their mission to 536 AD. In her eagerness to learn more about the cult that worshipped the Ashen One, she had taken the book from their temple without realizing its significance. It wasn't until they returned to their own time that Emily realized the grave mistake she had made. The book she had taken contained instructions for a ritual that would awaken the Ashen One from its slumber and bring about a catastrophic volcanic eruption that would wipe out much of humanity. Emily's heart sank as she realized the gravity of her mistake. She had put the future of humanity in danger, all because of her own curiosity.
Guys, I have something to tell you. During our mission to 536 AD, I made a mistake. I took a book from the temple of the cult that worshipped the Ashen One without realizing its significance.
What do you mean?
The book contained instructions for a ritual that would have caused a catastrophic volcanic eruption. I didn't know it at the time, but I had put the future of humanity at risk.
We have to do something about this. We can't just leave it like this.
We have to find that book and return it to its rightful place in history.
But the book could be anywhere by now. It's been centuries since we took it.
I know it won't be easy, but we have to try.
She knew that she had to do something to make things right. She confided in the rest of the crew and they immediately went into action, using their advanced technology to track down the book and return it to its rightful place in history. It wasn't an easy task. The book had passed through many hands over the centuries, and it took them years of searching and investigating to finally locate it. But finally, they succeeded. They returned the book to the temple, and they watched as the cult performed the ritual, which thankfully did not cause the catastrophic eruption. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that they had averted a disaster. But for Emily, the guilt of her mistake still lingered. She knew that she had learned an important lesson. As a historian, she had a responsibility to respect the timeline and not interfere with events that could put the future of humanity at risk. She made a vow to never make the same mistake again, and to use her knowledge of the past to make a positive impact on the future.
I've learned my lesson. I'll never interfere with events that could put the future of humanity at risk again.
We forgive you, Emily. Mistakes happen. What's important is that we learn from them and move forward.
As they flew away from the ruined city, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They had interfered with the past in a big way, and they didn't know what the consequences would be. But as they looked out at the stars and thought about the resilience of the people they had met, they knew that they had done the right thing. They had used their knowledge of the future to help those in the past, and they had prevented a potentially catastrophic event from occurring. But their mission wasn't over yet. As they continued to travel through time and space, they encountered more and more strange and dangerous phenomena. They learned about plagues, wars, and natural disasters that threatened to wipe out entire civilizations. With each new discovery, they realized just how fragile and precarious the future of humanity truly was. They knew that they had to be careful not to disturb the delicate balance of the past, but they also couldn't ignore the suffering and pain they witnessed. As they prepared to return to their own time, they reflected on everything they had learned. They knew that they couldn't change the past, but they could learn from it and use that knowledge to build a better future. They returned to their own time with a newfound appreciation for the resilience and strength of humanity. They knew that the future was never certain, but they also knew that they had the power to shape it for the better. And they were ready to do whatever it took to ensure that humanity would survive and thrive for generations to come. The crew of the spaceship Nova continued their journey through time, encountering new challenges and discoveries. With each new mission, they traveled to different eras and witnessed some of the most significant events in human history, including the birth of Christ, the rise of empires, and the fall of civilizations. They knew that the future was never certain, but they believed that by learning from the past, they could create a better world for generations to come. And so, they continued their journey, with the stars as their guide and the resilience of humanity as their inspiration. They knew that the past was never truly gone, but they also knew that the future was always within their grasp.